Hello and welcome to the Philippines. Travel. Where do we go from here? Some news and some predictions. Um, Unfortunately, this tourism, you still cannot fly into the Philippines and get a visa on arrival, a tourist visa for 30 days on arrival. I'll go over some of the details about that shortly. There's been an increase in cases. Deaths are way down, it seems, but like some other places around the world, including Thailand, more cases. So they're starting to lock down. They're starting to have tighter restrictions. So anyway, let's get into some of the details. I'll cover a little bit about vaccines, cover a little bit about some positive things that are starting to happen, I think, and kind of what we can look for in the future of travel. First off, we'll hit another Southeast Asian country, Thailand. The airlines there are urging the government to shut down because of the present little bit of a surge there, outbreak, big outbreak in the Bangkok area and other areas. May take months to control. So what's the government going to do? I've got a friend in Texas who has, I think, been jumping through all the hoops to get back to Thailand. He wants to eventually get to the Philippines, but I'm wondering if this is going to affect his trip. If he's going to get those flights will get canceled, and he will have to reschedule all that. Anybody know what's going on there? Have experience with that? Thailand was one of the countries who was becoming a little more creative with their visas, trying to attract tourists. Each month or two, they would come up with a little bit new program. They would tweak it a little bit to try to attempt to gain some more tourism in there. Now back to the Philippines. The DOT, Department of Tourism, mulls adoption of a COVID-19 digital travel pass for a resumption of international travel. What's been happening is that the Airline Association has come up with a pass, and they've got a number of airlines who have signed on, and some hotels and various other companies, businesses that have signed on. And it will be a way, I'll get to that in a little bit, it'll be a way to let people know what the requirements are to fly to different parts of the world. What the requirements are will be a way to be registered, and if you have been vaccinated, if you have had it and you have antibodies. So obviously, if you've had the virus, you've built up the antibodies. That's very similar, probably even better than getting the vaccine. You have those natural antibodies that you've built up. Uh, or number three, you have been tested and you test negative. It's all part of eventually, you aren't going to vaccinate the whole world. It's eventually getting to that herd immunity status, and there's a big debate on whether that's anywhere from 30% to 50% to 60% of the people in order to reach some type of herd immunity around each and every country, so that the chance of a virus spreading is decreased substantially. So again, she's saying a travel pass app that will enable passengers to create a digital passport, verify their test or vaccination with regulatory authorities, and submit requirements such as test results. That's the key, test results or vaccinations. One or both of those should be enough to allow travel. A registry of health requirements where passengers can get information on travel, testing, vaccination requirements. That's what the app is supposed to do accurately. Registry of testing vaccination centers, which enables passengers to find COVID-19 testing centers, laboratories at their departure or arrival destinations. And a lab app that will allow authorized COVID testing centers, laboratories to securely send test results or vaccination certificates to passengers. Now, the testing, there again, I reiterate, testing testing and vaccination. Poyet said that the DOT is hoping to safely reopen the country's tourist destinations for international travelers once it adapts the IATA travel pass. However, she clarified this will be done only when the time is right. In the press conference, expressed hopes that the country will be able to reopen to foreign tourists this year, 2021. She, however, stressed that there is no timeline for this yet, given the changing coronavirus protocols. And as you all know, things can change on a weekly basis. We're hoping slowly, Sana, this year we will be able to open up to the other countries, not only confined to Balikbayans. Hopefully this year, 2021. Bouncing over to the official Bureau of Immigration Facebook page. And whatever you think of Facebook, it seems it has become the most up-to-date source for news for many of these different agencies. You go to websites and you often find outdated information. Anyway, here we are, and here's a press release dated April 7th, 2021. And aliens not traveling with Pinoy kin can't enter the Philippines during the travel ban. And how long does the travel ban last? I'll get to that here in just a bit. Bureau of Immigration reiterated foreign parents, spouses, and children of Filipino citizens cannot enter the Philippines if they are not traveling with the Pinoy kin. Okay, so in the statement, the commissioner reiterated that said existing guidelines on international travel set by the IATF do not allow the entry of foreign parents, spouses, and children of Filipinos if they are traveling alone. The said foreigners should likewise possess valid visas secured in the country's foreign posts abroad to be able to enter the country. So even if you're traveling with your Filipino spouse, you should have a visa that you applied for and got from the Philippine consulate embassy in the country of that you're living in. The Balikbayan privilege, which allows a visa-free entry of foreign spouses and children of Filipinos, remains suspended. The reminder was issued following reports that a handful of aliens were denied entry at the airports for attempting to come to the country without their Filipino spouse, children, or parent. The airlines and ships are obliged to ensure that only foreigners eligible to enter the country. So if you go to your airport or ship to get on and come to the Philippines, they should turn you away unless you are traveling with your Filipino spouse and have a proper visa. Now here, the ban, which started last March 22nd, is in effect until April 21st. Then we'll see what happens after that. Aside from prohibiting the entry of foreigners, the IATF also ordered a reduction in the number of inbound international travelers to only 1,500 a day. That's not very many people. And that includes the Filipinos who are trying to get back, OFWs who have lost jobs or one reason or another who are traveling back to the Philippines. As far as vaccines go, this is a vaccine tracker on the Department of Health website, and it just shows the status of each of the various vaccines. It doesn't really give any information on availability, and they're, like most of the world, they're quite far behind in receiving and administering vaccines. And here's some really good news. If you don't know much about it, there's a lot of good information online. They're having really good results with dozens and dozens of tests. For those of you who will be flying in the future, there are two apps you need to be aware of. The Trays app you need inside of any of the airports, is my understanding. And the Safe Pass app is a app. They're trying to integrate all other apps. Many regions and companies have their own tracking apps, and they're trying to integrate that. That's going to take a number of months, I'm sure, because I think according to their website, there was still only about 2,000 businesses signed up to use this. I think it costs them 1,000 pesos a month to use the app, unless they're a larger company. How much do PCR tests cost in the Philippines? Philippine Airlines has a place, drive-through, walk-in service, 3,300 pesos. Now, you can get, some places will subsidize you a little bit on that, but most are up above that. 4,000, 5,000, I've heard even up to 7,000 for a PCR test, depending upon where you go to. There are a number of areas that went back to more restrictive measurements, restrictions. Baguio area and several towns up there, Boracay, shut down several of their areas and have more restrictions as well. I've had a number of people ask me about traveling in the Philippines once you're here, and those who are here, which islands can you visit? And there is an app and a website for that. App.philippines.travel, and I'll go over that with you right now. If you are planning to travel to or in the Philippines, there is an app. You can download it onto your phone, or you can access it online like I do at app.philippines.travel. And I'm getting a screenshot here of the app on my computer, and it's got a number of, I've checked some of the, as you go down, they have tips, they have news, like the standardized travel protocols for land, sea, and air, intro to Manila, Metro Manila, and I've checked some of these articles. What they do is they route you to various articles, usually. The news feeds down here do. So reopen destinations. Bohol. Let me click here and see where it takes us. Bohol. And food and drink, place to stay, see and do, lifestyle. IATF standardized travel protocols, and has some interesting stuff here. Testing shall not be mandatory for traveler except if the LGU of destination, that's local government unit, so that could be the town, the village that you're traveling to. If they require a testing, then you're required to get a test. Now this is generally for the whole Philippines, and if you drill down further, you will find that each area has their different requirements, which makes it confusing. They have put out a thing saying they wanted to have standardized travel protocols, but in fact that's not the case, because each LGU is coming up with their own. No traveler shall be required to undergo quarantine unless they exhibit symptoms upon arrival at the LGO of destination. Travel authority issued by the Joint Task Force COVID Shield and health certificates shall no longer be required. Anyway, you can read through that if you want. Let's bounce back and go to Bohol Travel Advisory in particular. And let me increase the size of this print a bit. Okay. So here, PCR test is now accepted for Bohol travel. If tourist stays more than 5 days in Bohol, a repeat test is needed on the 5th day. So that would get expensive. Probably, I'm guessing 4 to 5 to 6, 7,000 pesos per test in most cases. So requirements for entry: you need the PCR test, not taken more than 72 hours before departure, pre-booked accommodation in DOT accredited UBE seal establishments, itinerary of arriving guests, pre-booked tour with DOT accredited tour operators, QR code see below. If you're going to the island of Panglao or the municipality of Panglao, there's a Panglao Island and there's Panglao Municipality. You need to register at this link here. At that point in time, you will be issued a letter of acceptance. Moreover, a PCR test, again, not taken or taken within 72 hours, and a confirmed hotel booking is required. Letter of acceptance, no registration, no entry to the municipality. Steps in getting the QR code. As you go on here, it gets more complicated. You go to a different test. You go to a different site here to get your QR code. Arrival. Upon arrival, the traveler will not be required. Upon arrival, the traveler will not be required to undergo quarantine and repeat testing unless they exhibit symptoms. If guests are staying in Bohol more than 5 days, they must do a second test. Children under 4 are exempted. Tourists must have printed copies of the required documents on hand when they enter Bohol. Tourists are not allowed to have do-it-yourself tours, and they are highly discouraged from engaging in personal activities outside of your tourism bubble. That would deter me because I like to rent a motorbike and go around. Tourists are also highly discouraged from visiting or meeting with relatives or friends who are in Bohol. And these are the areas that are open in Bohol. But you're pretty much asked to stay in those areas apparently. You book into one area and you stay there. That's what my understanding. So you can go to this site and you can go over here to me, you can register and you can save all your documents online apparently. But also when we were at the Bohol side of this, it said that you had to have copies with you, not just online. It said you have to have paper copies of all your documents. Now for some predictions. If I sound tired, frustrated, it's because I am every time I do these, continue to do these travel updates, searching through all the news and looking for hints of hope is very frustrating. And I guess I'm lucky that I'm stuck here in the Philippines and not stuck in some other country I wouldn't want to be in, I guess. I would love to be able to travel some other countries. And anyway, get on to the predictions. First of all, I think there is, we've all understood that these countries, there are a number of different groups that are pushing the agendas. There are groups that want the lockdowns or are using fear to push the lockdowns, continuing regardless of all the damage they're doing with the lockdowns, probably killing many more people, destroying many more lives than this or any other virus probably would do. Now, on one optimistic note, I do think it's going to take a number of months for things to start moving in the right direction. There are some countries that are opening up and they're saying we have to open up. We'll just deal with it one way or another. There are a number of alternative treatments out there, and I'm not going to mention any of the names because some top doctors that mention those names on YouTube end up getting censored, demonetized. Why is it that there's a group of non-experts, I'm sure, who are deciding what can be discussed on the airwaves here, the internet? I will mention two names, two doctors, Dr. Corey, Kory, and a Dr. Bean. They have YouTube channels as well as websites. Mobeen, Dr. Been, and he has lots of very good discussions about some of the alternatives, does a lot of information about how the various vaccines work, how some of the alternative medicines are being used, and there's information on, there's dozens and dozens of studies on different repurposing of drugs. So for those of you who are interested, you can go there. I'm not going to hold a discussion here at the risk of being censored, demonetized myself. So that is good news. There is there even here in the Philippines, there are quite a number of doctors who are pushing for the acceptance and even the manufacture of repurposed drugs here that are showing some very good signs in not only the prevention but the cure of a certain virus. Now, there are quite a number of expats who are still in the Philippines. I mean, thousands, tens of thousands have left, gone back to their home countries. But those are here. Some have overstayed their visas. I suggest you get in contact with an agency such as I've used, and many of my friends, other expats have used JR Visa Consultancy here in Cebu City. They also have an office in Dumaguete, and they just opened an office in Bohol as well on the west side of Cebu. And he can help work you through the process of things that are needed to get you back in good standing with the Philippine immigration. Now, I do appreciate the fact that Thailand, for instance, has kept extending visas for people who have run out of time. And I don't understand why the Philippines government does not do that. It doesn't help the government to force people to leave. You know, the expats are spending tens of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars probably every month here in the Philippines, much needed in this economy. I certainly wish that they would find some flexible way to extend those visas past that 36-month or whatever other restrictions they might have depending upon the visa that you're on. Now, when travel picks up again, what about the cost of travel? What about the cost of living in the various countries? I think that some countries will be raising the cost, the immigration costs for their tourist visas, to try to recoup some of the income revenue that they have lost over the past year and going into a second year. I think that for another year, many of there will be a lot of travel deals for those airlines. You know, dozens of airlines have gone out of business permanently already, and you don't hear much about that. There are several airlines, including Thai Air. There are many other airlines, different countries, that are getting bailed out by the governments. How many of those will survive in the end? Some in the U.S. they've added some flights. There is some demand there apparently to other cities where they didn't service before. So there will be deals for airlines, hotels, resorts going in through much of this year, I believe. After that, of course, things will normalize. Rental prices for those of you wanting to rent condominiums, Airbnbs, there again, I think there's going to be the downward pressure for probably a good another year, most of the rest of this year. In the winter time in the northern hemisphere, in the November, December, January, February, when tourism is big in the Philippines, you may see prices going back up again, trying to recover, depending upon how fast the economy recovers, how fast people start traveling again, how difficult these countries make it to travel. If the countries make it difficult and expensive to travel, they will eliminate thousands of travelers just by that. If these so-called passes, travel passes, are lenient enough so that they encompass a great many people, the more intolerable they are, the fewer people are going to travel. In my opinion, I think it makes a lot of common sense if you've been vaccinated. Although what's going to happen, you're going to find out that the different vaccines, some will last longer than others. People will need revaccinations or a different type of vaccination. because these vaccines were only tested for, I think, less than a year. So they haven't gone through the normal 5-year process of testing. It's still in the testing process uh, in reality. Um, so it should include those who have antibodies because they've had the virus. A virus, they're probably good for a year or longer. And that's another debate. I've been following the scientific medical discussions for well over a year, and that those are discussions I'll leave up to the medical and the scientific people. But I do understand that most of us have a certain resistance and antibody a way to build up antibodies to uh, different viruses. I will be doing another video. I've been doing a lot of work looking for additional information on the real estate market here and other places, and I'll be putting some information, more technical type information out soon on that. But in many ways, it's anybody's guess. There are forces in place. There are downward forces, upward forces, investors and sellers, and it's a mix of all that, and we'll have some discussions about that as well. Anyway, thank you. This is getting to be a long video. Thanks for coming along if you're still here. And take care, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.